pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Yes, this evening we're starting with Trustee Virgilio.
Here.
Blatzer?
Here.
Childekis?
Present.
Miklos?
Here.
Snagowski?
Here.
Stapleton?
Here.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of approval of minutes from the March 27th, 2017 Village Board meeting minutes, the March 27th, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes, approval of disbursements, annual fee ordinance, an ordinance amending Ordinance 725 establishing a pay plan and schedule of authorized positions, a resolution approving an agreement for the Village Gateway, informational and wayfinding signage master planning services, another resolution reviewing the needs for confidentiality of closed session meetings, and then finally, a resolution providing for the destruction of certain verbatim recordings of closed session meetings. I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Trustee Snagowski, seconded by Trustee Blatzer. Any questions? None? Roll call.
Okay, Virgilio?
Yes.
Blatzer?
Yes.
Childekis?
Yes,
Miklos?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the mayor's report. I don't have anything to really report on, but I notice there's a large audience here tonight, so we're gonna start with audience participation tonight regarding any of the agenda items. During public comment, each person who wishes to address the public body shall have no more than 3 minutes to do so after they have been recognized by the chairman of the public body. So whoever feels like wanting to speak, you can announce your name, your address if you wish. Yeah, please.
Good evening. My name is Steve Rosendahl. I'm the Lamont Township Supervisor, but I also reside in Lamont in the village at 104 Doolin. Tonight you're going to consider approval of a subdivision that completely surrounds our open space. And as a Township Supervisor, I would like to recognize this board for considering the impact this has on the township and the property that we've invested $7 million in. Those $7 million in tax money was spent to restore the land to native prairie and build a township facility, along with the dog park and 2.5 to 3 miles of walking paths and habitat restored for animals. And in considering the impact this development potentially would have is, in my mind, insurance on the investment that we as a community have already made. And I commend and thank the board for considering the township in that manner. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Does anyone else?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Pepich. I live at 1240 Eagle Crest Drive, Lamont, Illinois. I'm also the president of the Lamont Park Board of Commissioners. This evening, I come to you as the president of the Park Board of Commissioners, and I'd like to thank the acting mayor and the board for allowing me to have this opportunity to speak to you this evening. My request tonight is that you table the vote to approve the ordinance annexing, rezoning, and approval of the PUD for the Visconsia property. My request is based on the language contained in this agreement that relates to the impact fees for recreational services. Currently, approximately 60% of the $1 million plus impact fee is being distributed to the township. As late as Wednesday of last week, the actual cash distribution to both the township and the Park District was not known. On Thursday of last week, we were told the township would receive $625,000 in cash. While the Park District understands that the village can decide to allow for such a cash distribution to the township, the Park District has not been told how the numbers were calculated by the township. The intent of the impact fee for recreational services was to allow the Park District to support recreational services in the village. While the board may choose to distribute those funds to other public bodies, the board should only do that after the public bodies at issue have been fully heard on the subject so that the board can make informed decisions. My board does not meet until the 18th of the month. Therefore, because of the Open Meetings Act, we cannot discuss this collectively as a group until then. And we would like to have that opportunity to do so in addition to my previous comments. Nothing is set in stone. Once the ordinances are approved, time and resource could be wasted trying to correct mistakes for something hastily approved without including all the stakeholders involved. As a result, please table the approval of these ordinances so that the village, the township, and the Park District can properly decide the best way to use the impact fees and present that to the board for consideration. And importantly, too, Jeanette, Paul, Cliff, secondarily, I want to thank you guys on behalf of the Park District Board and our staff for all your years of dedication and service. I mean, you guys, the countless hours that you guys put forth, nobody understands the time and dedication and hard work you guys have put in other than your fellow board mates, your family, and people like myself. And I just want you to know that we know you guys did everything wonderfully with the best intent of all the right things in the community, and we really appreciate all your time and your dedication. So thank you all for your time, and thank you for hearing me out this evening.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Brian. Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening. Tony Spinelli. A couple things I wanted to bring up as a resident, but also as chairman of Planning and Zoning. Some engineering issues that still have not been resolved. They probably can be resolved during final engineering, but need to be considered at this point. Number one is the stormwater detention basins. All 3 detention basins exceed our ordinance, which is 4 foot of storage. There's a basin that's at 5 foot, the middle basin's at 6 foot, and the westernmost basin's at 7 foot. The 7 foot of storage depth is excessive and dangerous. Secondly, the area to the far west in the cul-de-sac of the duplexes. The preliminary grading that was submitted to you guys, I do not believe can meet the stormwater ordinance and comply with that, with the grading that they've proposed already. Third, there is many lots without retaining walls that have 18 to 23 feet of drop from the back of the house, the basement elevation, to the rear property line. Another thing that can be addressed during final engineering, but needs to be discussed. And lastly is the existing Alba Road has 24 feet of pavement at the connection point for the subdivision, and it's 27 feet of pavement immediately north of Pepper's Auto Repair. The proposed Alba for this subdivision is 33 feet of pavement. It does not make sense to require the entire inside part to be a collector street at 33 feet of pavement, but yet allow them to be 24 feet at the connection. That should be addressed also. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Is anyone else? Okay, sir.
Hi, my name is Tom Radice, and I own the property immediately to the north of this division. And I know the board has looked at this extensively, and they're making their decision, which I support wholeheartedly. With one exception, I would ask that in the consideration, this is not a request or something that's required of the developer, but on the north side, they send a lot of water down, which creates a small wetlands area down there, and really keeps me from doing anything in development, and really makes it awfully hard. I would ask that in approving this, whether it be tonight or some other day, you would ask the developers to mitigate this small parcel, and that will help solve my problem. We've all done a lot over the years. You know, when Timberline went in, the village came and asked for some extra footage on the west side, which was many, many years ago, and I was happy to do that. This is not something we have to do or the developers have to do. It's just something that's a good thing for everybody. So I would ask if you'd keep that in mind and do what you can to make this better for everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak on tonight's subjects?
Oh, you're stealing the pen?
Can't take those, we need them.
I found out about this like 10 minutes ago, so, did I come here with a speech prepared? No. But I did want to give my opinion because I feel like I was born here, I was raised here. I went to grade school here, and I think this town, when I think of it, it's beautiful. I see the older homes, I see newer homes, and what I understand that these homes are coming in as very cheap, not beautiful, not pretty, and I think of Hinsdale, I think, oh my gosh, that's beautiful. I think of Burridge, I think it's beautiful. And even though this town has maybe not, the more expensive homes than, some of the subdivisions, I live in a very small home, but I think they all could still be beautiful. And when you put, these homes, whether they're bigger or smaller, and they use inexpensive siding, and it just cheapens the town. And I think it's very important to feel proud of this town. I love this town. My kids were both raised here, and oh my gosh, I could hear the inflection of my voice. But I guess that's all I want to say is, I think if we put in homes, I think they should be beautiful. I think they should be quality. And it's very disappointing to feel that that would be a consideration for money over quality. So.
Before you step away, can you state your name for the public?
It's Michelle Nagel-Fleener.
Thank you. Anyone else? That's it. Mike is yours.
Alan Brown, 5 Timberline Place. 2 points. One, I absolutely agree with Michelle. Quality, not quantity. And that's what we're talking here. Let's not cram as many houses as we can in this beautiful piece of land to, give the developers a higher profit. Let's go for quality. But the other thing I'd like to ask is that you not vote tonight because you're voting on a preliminary plan, which no one here has seen. Maybe you have, but I think the residents deserve a chance to see what the final plat and the final plan and what's being voted on and what's being approved, rather than a preliminary. It's like, oh yeah, we said we would do this, but oh, guess what? We're doing that instead. Because you voted on something that, was preliminary. I think that's important, that this just be, development's inevitable, accepted. It should be good for Lamont, but I think we all deserve to see the final plans, not the preliminary plans. Every time I look at these drawings, they're different. And I have pictures of them, and I've seen them change. I like to see the final one.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Okay, being that there's no more, all the comments have been taken into consideration. I saw a lot of pens moving around at the table in front of me here, so we'll move forward now with the clerk's report.
Thank you. The first ordinance we have this evening, if passed, would be O-27-17. And this is adopting the fiscal year 2017-18 operating and capital improvement budget for the Village of Lamont.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Stigowski motioned it, seconded by Trustee Blatzer. Chris, I believe this is you.
Thank you. Okay, this is the last step in
maintaining our 30% fund balance requirement, which the board has established several years ago. We were at 34%, and we're now down to 31%. That doesn't mean that we went into fund balance. It means that the fund balance is a calculation of balance.
Your microphone's not on.
No, it's not on. I'm sorry.
I think we got Bill.
Good old Bill.
Start with.
Good old Bill.
Hi.
Start all over.
Oh, no.
Anyway, we are at a 31%, and so like I said before, it doesn't mean, it means our expenditures are increasing with our fund balance. So we have not, we don't dip into fund balance. And then the other highlight is our total revenues do exceed our expenditures.
Thank you, Chris.
If I could just jump in real quick. Thank you, Chris, and thank you to staff and the village board for putting in the hard work on the budget this year. As Chris mentions, it's a good budget. It's balanced. It's a maintenance budget with a little bit more. There's infrastructure projects that Director Pakula is going to talk about here under his staff report. Economic development initiatives, other initiatives. We have a siren we're going to be purchasing this year, and that's in the budget this year for the east side of town that the township has agreed to chip in on as per past practice, and when you have to purchase those type of items. So it's a good budget. It's balanced. We're going to put money into fund balance, and it's conservative. So we should end the year doing pretty well. And I also want to make a quick note, Chris. I know the item that's in the agenda, a lot of numbers, a lot of line items. Maybe they're not the most readable document, but the full budget book, correct, with all the graphs and the narratives, is online. And when the end of the year results come in for this fiscal year, the full budget book will be made available to the community. But it's just because this is the item that gets approved with the counties. But go on our website if you have any questions on any of the budget. You can always contact staff as well. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Any questions from the trustees? None? Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Yes. Virgilio?
Yes.
Blatzer?
Yes.
Childekis?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
The next item, if passed this evening, would be O-28-17, and this is authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement for 102.53 acres located north of 127th Street and east of I-355 in Lamont, Illinois, the Vistanza subdivision.
I need a motion to approve.
So move.
Motion by trustee Stapleton, seconded by trustee Blatzer. Heather?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So this item was brought before the village board at the committee of the whole meeting March 20th. The applicant is currently still the contract purchaser and is applying for a preliminary plan unit development, annexation, and rezoning. So at the March 20th committee of the whole meeting, there were about 22 recommendations from staff, coupled with recommendations from the board. So I'm going to kind of go through a couple of those. This relates to all three ordinances that you'll be voting on, including this first one, but all these items are included in most of them.
Okay.
So the first three conditions were to reconfigure certain lots or eliminate certain lots to ensure that the actual layout and configuration would not have any unintended consequences against lots or against the neighbors. So the applicant reconfigured or removed certain lots and is now down to the lot count of 209 lots, which is a total of 270 dwelling units. So then the fourth condition was that the applicant is to create the wing walls in such a way that they appear to be pressed concrete that looks like limestone. The applicant has updated the plans accordingly. The fifth was that the applicant submit a contribution for the future turn lane at New Avenue and Timberline. The applicant has indicated both in the annexation agreement and in correspondence that they will make this contribution. The sixth was that the hammerhead that was put in was removed. They did so and did lose a lot. Items 7 through 12 were related to the product book through either the appearance of the models or the configuration of models within the book. The applicant has revised the book accordingly under staff's direction and met all of those conditions. So the third and 14th conditions were related to the request for signs. The applicant has updated their request accordingly, and the request for the billboard has been removed. The request for the other signage has been put in a way that is more suitable for the actual site. The 15th is that the applicant will apply for a 404 permit if needed for any of the wetlands or the ravines. The applicant has indicated they will comply. The 16th and the 17th related to key walks and radiuses of the street. The applicant has complied. The 18th condition, the applicant has addressed the preliminary concerns of the village arborist, the village ecologist, and the village engineer. There are items indicated on the plans that certain items that can be finalized at final PUD will be finalized under the direction of those consultants. The 19 is that they revise their stormwater plans to accommodate the increased lot coverage per their request. They have done so accordingly. The 20th is that they would submit grading plans for all of the lots. They have done so. It has been preliminary reviewed by the village engineer, and he is comfortable with the detail of grading at this point. There was quite a bit to work out during final engineering per all subdivisions. The 21st is that the applicant comply with the village's recent adoption of the native planting guidelines. They have updated all of their plans accordingly that they will meet those standards. The 22nd is that the woodland areas, the ravine areas that are proposed to be undeveloped do have a woodland restoration or management plan to ensure that those areas are properly maintained. So, as summarized, they have met all 22 conditions or have put comments in their plans indicating that they will meet these conditions at time of final PUD. So staff is recommending at this time approval of the annexation agreement.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I got one. I just want to make sure I understood you. So all conditions have been met or arrangements in language has been put into the plans to meet them?
Exactly. So just for example, one condition the village arborist has is that he would like to walk the staked line of where the tree protection fence will be going for the ravine area with the applicant. They've actually updated their plans accordingly to say that they will comply with this inspection prior to the approval of final PUD. So this will be done before any trees are removed.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
In addition to that, all the requests we've made for side yard sets, front yard, backyard, all have been agreed upon of what we've requested. Am I correct in saying that?
Correct. So all of the side yard setbacks across the entirety of the subdivision will be a minimum of 10 feet. All of the rear yards that back up to either existing lots or townhomes to single family either meet the 30-foot or actually are increased further to 40 feet. The rest of the areas that do back up to the non-improved area or the ravines are at 25 per the direction of the board at the committee of the whole.
And all the lots that back up to Timberline are all 12.5,
They're all 12.5 or more.
I believe there's two that are
just under? Okay.
only two out of that whole street.
The two that are under it do not actually back up to the lots, though. There is the area there around lot 32, I believe. You can see in the map in front of you. It does not actually back up to a timberline lot, so it is under. However, it does not actually touch the rear yards of the existing lots.
Okay. Masonry component?
They have updated their masonry accordingly. They have also updated the product book for the front elevations to include those returns to either be the full height brick or the wainscot brick, depending on what the actual corresponding style is on the front.
Okay.
And that material is not what was referred to once as the peeling stick. It is a full adhered brick.
Lick and stick.
It's not the peeling stick. It's what we've allowed in the past.
Gotcha.
Oh, you need the mic.
The materials that are being used are not what was considered a peel and stick. They are an actually adhered brick that actually gets built into the wall as if it was a normal brick. It's just a little thinner than otherwise allowed.
Okay.
And it all meets village standards.
It all meets the village standards and the standards we've approved in the past.
Debbie, did you have a question?
I did. I had a few questions, actually. The lots that were by the bridge where we said we would want Public Works to have access, I think somebody said, we'd asked about having those adjusted so that we'd make sure there was room. Can you, I know you talked about that. Can you?
Absolutely. So the access road for Public Works down to the Conspan is located on the southwest side of that bridge. It will be a paved 16-foot wide driveway standard for 1-ton trucks to get up and down. On the other side of the ravine, where we had been concerned there could be headlights going into residents' homes, they have actually set that back further so that they, the closest that home could possibly be to the actual street is 50 feet. So that should diminish most of the headlights going in there. Also, too, if for some reason Public Works needed to access that side and could not get under the culvert, there would be some room there that is not private property for them to get down.
Okay, and I wanted to also have staff address a couple things, because I think there might be just, for clarity for some of the questions, is that okay? Okay. Can you just explain the difference between preliminary and final? Because I know there was the gentleman that asked about preliminary versus final, and I think it'd be good to just explain what that is.
Sure. So we have two processes in the village. The first is preliminary and the second is final. So the applicant is eligible to apply for preliminary PUD, which puts the entitlements in place for them to have to come back for final engineering. So even though they are getting preliminary approvals tonight, it does not negate the fact that they have to come back for final PUD before they can actually start construction at the subdivision. Most subdivisions of this size come through for preliminary first and then go to final. Typically, it's only small sites that proceed with final immediately.
And one other aspect of that is that there is there is a likelihood that some of this plan will change based upon engineering, some of the things that Chairman Spinelli also stated, which will be addressed. But it will not change to where it is a smaller side yard. It will not change to where it is more lots. Those are built into this agreement, that those are the maximums, and they cannot exceed those or for the amount of lots. It's the minimum, right, for the side yards. So those types of things are built into this agreement that will not change between now and final PUD. If anything, there'll be a couple more other lots that are lost because of engineering reasons.
And then the other thing was I know we'll address the grading during, moving forward, and for the resident who's concerned about runoff, I saw you talk to Ralph, so we'll make sure on that, thank you. And then the other thing was the grading of the basins. Would you just address the depth of the basins then?
Sure. So the village engineer reviewed the plans. And he found the depths to be acceptable. The standard of the 4 feet is a standard based on code. As this is a PUD, it is part of the flexibility of the code to be able to meet certain conditions. The site is very challenging. The site has a lot of topography. The site has a lot of challenges, and the village engineer is comfortable with the variations for the depth of storage.
And explain what the basins are going to be.
So there are 3 proposed basins. The first is located at the intersection of Timberline and what will be called Vistancia Drive. There is a detention basin there. There is another detention basin that is just west, further from there, a very large one. And then that is separated from the rest of the development from a large ravine. And then the third detention pond is located on the other side of that ravine.
How are they graded then? They're stepped, like they're not just.
So they are graded to contain the water. They actually will be using geotextile soils. They'll actually be using engineered soils to ensure that these basins that are located on the side of the ravines do not breach.
Does Alba Street get reconfigured? Am I correct in saying that that's going to get opened up?
Well, Elbow Street is from the point where Chairman Spinelli, that has not been.
Okay.
So it is now something that's definitely on the radar, and we'll discuss that. The point from where the development starts, it is that wide
Okay.
road. So there has been other discussions about widening it at a certain point and running some water lines while they're there. But we will have that discussion between now and final PUD to
Okay.
address that issue. It is a very, very good point.
And then the point that the resident had about the quality of the materials in the homes. I actually expected the homes to be less expensive, and they're not. So, and I think that the product that is being used after our discussion is not a cheaper product than we typically use in the village. It's actually, I think, more masonry than we had in Kettering. Would that be right?
That is correct. The overall percentage of the building materials within the entire development will be more than we have in Kettering, meaning stone and brick. The quote-unquote siding is an LP board. It's not an aluminum siding. It is a higher material, a higher-end material that is manufactured by 2 or 3 different types of manufacturers that is acceptable to our village standards. And again, it's not aluminum. We've had those discussions about aluminum siding ad nauseum in the past, and we have come up with our policy, and they are meeting or exceeding that policy.
Yeah, I just want to stress that this is not a cheap subdivision with, you know, bad quality homes. It's very good quality homes, because that was something that, you know, this board had discussed, and that's why they made some of the changes that they made coming into tonight, because we wanted to make sure that they were higher quality. So I didn't want the resident that was concerned about that to be worried that these were going to be, you know, ugly, nasty homes. I lived in a house that was a very small house, about 1,800 square feet, that I will say was a cute house, but a very small house that, you know, you can do a smaller house very nicely, and these are actually much bigger than my house was. So I think that they will have a good product. They have a good reputation, so that's good too. Okay. I think that was most of the concerns that were brought up that I also had as well on the development, so.
I have one more question. I think it was at the committee of whole meeting, there were 273 units. Tonight, you're presenting 270. Those 3 units were reduced based on that discussion. Can you explain where those came from? Was that at the what is it called? At the bridge? Let me put it that way. Use a different word and.
Sure. So based on the plans in front of you, there were 2 lots coming off the bridge on the southwest side that there were concerns, not of the size, but actually of the configuration of the frontage. It was a little bit of a tight configuration with some of the key walks, which are those crosswalks that actually direct you across the street, additionally with some utilities, and then the eventual placement of a driveway. So the applicant actually updated that and did lose 1 lot there. Another area was the reconfiguration of the hammerhead, which is down in the southeast corner of the site. They did remove that hammerhead to put in what's called a knuckle road configuration, and they lost a lot there as well. And then the final lots that were lost was up on the northeast side. If you can see, there's a small ravine that runs between those lots. There was a lot lost there as well. The area that, the reason it was lost is because it was inside of the wetland buffer. The area that was not part of the wetland buffer was then redistributed into creating some larger lots there as well.
Jeanette, I think that was the one you were
Yep.
looking at.
Yeah, I'm satified with the criteria.
Heather, we're down to 270 lots. What was the original number of lots that the petitioner asked for?
Units, Ron.
Units, okay.
Yeah.
The total number of units that was
Units.
originally requested was 294.
Right. Yeah, you said 209 lots,
270
270 units. Is that what you said?
Correct, because a number, 61 of those lots are duplexes.
Right, okay.
Any other comments? Questions? Go ahead, Jeanette.
I just have one comment that I would like to make, and Brian, thank you for your kind words. It's been a long 16 years. Nights like tonight make it even longer, it seems like. I want to thank the developer and our P&Z for going back and forth as many times as you have, working with the township and the village to try to get this. I believe that this property is probably going to be the best development that it can be. With regards to the land cash, I think that was brought up by Brian. I would like Jeff to kind of go over what the land cash ordinance states and how we came about with regards to
Yep, so
the division.
Well, there's two different aspects here. One is we're operating under an annexation agreement.
Correct.
So the annexation agreement takes precedence over our ordinances and over our other rules. We can agree per this. However, even with that being said, we are still following the ordinance. Specifically, Chapter 17, 18, 05, I'm sorry, I'd strike that. 17, 18, 080, Section A1 talks about how cash contributions are made in lieu of land. And in this case, there is land being provided to the Park District in the amount, it's a third of an acre. It's valued by this ordinance at $50,000 because it's $150,000 per acre, or $49,500. And then it's a $250,000 upfront, either cash contribution or direct installation and purchase by the developer to do that park. That's going to be located within the Vistancia subdivision, which was agreed upon and discussed at the Park District with the Park District staff. The remaining cash contributions have been, they have to be divided up to have an impact upon the actual subdivision. So with that being said, you can't just take, if this was on another side of town, or you can't take money from one side of town and put it on the other side of town. That's the case law, and that's how the law has really shaken out since the 60s and 70s. So with that being said, as was discussed, there is an impact by two entities that have recreation in this area. Obviously, the Park District has their recreation, is going to be given their park in the vicinity itself. There's a small park just outside the subdivision that we believe will be used by this subdivision, and there's been a request to have that property or the basketball courts renovated. And then the remaining cash, which is guaranteed to be $115,000, is going to be used towards Centennial Park. However, really, the Park District feels it's necessary to improve theirs. The other cash allocation is going to the township because they have the large recreational open space there. There's an expansion of the dog park, which will have a direct impact. You add 270 homes, some people are going to have dogs and cats. It's not a cat park, but they'll have dogs. And they can bring their dogs there, and it'll be an expansion. There will be a pavilion provided for services of music services or other types of things that can go on. It'll be a direct recreational impact. That is something that the developer has also agreed upon and said that is something that they think will help their development. There will be, I'm blanking on the last.
Trails.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so there'll be an expansion of the parking lot as well as the trails, but those are not necessarily coming out of the impact fees. Those are coming out of what is a private deal between the township and the developer. Any money that's not used by the township, this agreement contemplates not every penny being used by the township, but they ultimately get what they need. So, for example, the dog park only cost, and I remember what the last one. The last one was a restoration and renovation of the 7 acres that they're getting to use as more open space. And that's the 2 or 3 acres that are closest to the existing open space, which would be create a larger recreational area and a larger open space. But for example, if the dog park doesn't cost $75,000 or $125,000 and it only costs $75,000, that $50,000 then goes to the Park District to put back into Centennial Park. So those are the numbers that have been provided. Those are the numbers that we came up with and have been vetted through the process, and that is what you are ultimately voting on tonight.
Thanks, Jeff.
I just want to address that too, because as you know, parks are always my thing. There's been plenty of times I've been like, are we getting a park? And they're like, no, we're getting a land. And they're like, no, we're taking cash. So I'm really happy that there's going to be a park and park improvements. And I asked at the last meeting about the open space that the township was getting, because I think there needs to be some amenities there. So I'm very pleased that there's going to be something there rather than, just the unimproved land. So I'm very happy that they're going to restore some of that and put in a pavilion. And, the township property is used by village residents. It's not like it's for the township. It is for everybody to use, and it is a beautiful space there. And I was actually a little bit concerned that we weren't going to be doing something on the township property. So I'm very glad that there is a plan for that use. And there will be a park there, which, you know, I am a big fan of that. And extra parking, it's all those P words. I'm very happy with parks, parking. So I think it's a really good plan. So I'm very pleased that this is what's going to be, the way it's going to be done. And I think it makes sense to do the nearby park across the street and, you know, some of the improvements at Centennial. So those will be impacted by, you know, this subdivision as well. So I think that's a great division. So thanks for doing that.
Thanks, Deb.
I just want to make one last statement. Unfortunately, we have 3 different taxing bodies that are now doing parks. We have the village who are doing the Quarry Park, which that was kind of a unique circumstances where the village elected to acquire the leases from MWRD when the park district didn't feel comfortable. So we got into that business. The park, of course, Park District has their Centennial Park and all the variety of parks through town, which is their jurisdiction. And now the township is into the business of parks because that was the nature of that beast, because that was a referendum that was passed to acquire 50 acres of property. So we have set this precedent one time before where I believe that the most directly impacted park is the township property, and that needs to be improved because I think that's going to have the highest user rating down there, or the use in general. We did this one time before when the Front Street Lofts was built, and the Park District really didn't have a park that they could build down there. And so we were able then to use all of the impact fees for beautification of the canal path because that was recreation. We considered the canal path a park. So I think that it is the best interest of the community that we kind of get our investment that we have in the township and keep that improved because that is going to be the most directly impacted. Just wanted to make sure that people knew my feelings on that.
Thanks, Jeanette. Rick, Ron? Okay. I think it's time for a vote. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call?
Virgilio?
Yes.
Latzer?
Yes.
Childekis?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
The motion approved. Our next ordinance?
The next ordinance this evening, if passed, would be O-29-17. And this is annexing to the Village of Lamont approximately 102.53 acres located north of 127th Street and east of I-355 in Lamont. Again, that's the same development, Vistengia.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Blatzer, seconded by trustee Virgilio. Heather?
Thank you. So the ordinance before was the annexation agreement that would control some of the items that we discussed, the land cash fees, the lot sizes, things like that. This actually brings the property into Lamont. So this is really more of a map amendment to actually bring the property inside of our boundary.
Great. Any questions? Thank you, Heather. Roll call.
Virgilio?
Yes.
Blatzer?
Yes.
Childekis?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
The next ordinance to pass this evening would be O-30-17, and this is granting preliminary plan plat approval for a special use for a preliminary planned unit development, a PUD, and zoning map amendment for the residential subdivision on a 105.68 acre parcel located north of 127th Street and east of I-355 in Lamont, Illinois. Again, the same subdivision.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Blatzer, seconded by trustee Virgilio. Heather?
Thank you. So this will be the last ordinance tonight. This ordinance was actually included as part of the annexation agreement. So the same controls from the annexation agreement control the PUD as well. Another note, as you notice, the actual acreage changed. 3.15 acres are actually already inside of the village. The 102.53 was outside the village. So this PUD does cover, as the annexation agreement does, all 105 acres.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions from the board? Nope. Roll call.
Virgilio?
Yes.
Blatzer?
Yes.
Childekis?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Snagowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
The motion's approved.
The next item, if passed this evening, is a resolution. This would be R-22-17, and this is authorizing award of a contract for the 2017 MFT resurfacing program.
I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Blatzer, seconded by trustee Virgilio. Ralph?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. This is a resolution authorizing the award of contract for the 2017 MFT resurfacing program, which will include Keepataw Drive from Hillview to Freehoff, Keepataw Lane, Keepataw Court, Forest Lane, Gillian Street, and Una Drive. 6 bids were received on March 30th, with PT Farrell out of Joliet coming in at $387,541.22, which is $126,367.68 under the engineer's estimate.
Good.
Staff approval to award PT Farrell the contract for the MFT road resurfacing
Great.
program.
Came in way down. Any questions by the board?
No.
Okay, can we get a roll call?
Virgilio?
Yes.
Blatzer?
Yes.
Chaldikis?
Yes.
Miklos?
Yes.
Stokowski?
Yes.
Stapleton?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
That's all I have this evening, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Do we have any comments tonight by the Village Corporation Council? City Village Administrator? No comments, okay. Village Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Just a couple quick items. We do not meet again as a village board until May 15th. We have canceled our committee of the whole this meeting this month, and we typically cancel the fourth Monday of April for the Mayor's Drive for Charity. So we do not meet again until May 15th. At that time, we will conduct business as a board, and we will be swearing in new elected officials for that meeting as well. So hopefully the room will be packed for that meeting and for May 15th. So with that, there's a couple brief announcements I'll make since we do not have a meeting, although a lot of these updates are on the village website. Just want to remind residents, this village board approved an ordinance or a resolution a couple of months back on a new program through Waste Management called At Your Door. This allows village residents to recycle electronics, paints, motor oil, and other hazardous waste material just by calling the 1-800 number or going to the website and signing up, and they will send you out a packet to your home, and they will come pick it up. So it really just a great opportunity for everyone to clean up everything they have in their basements and their garages without having to wait for a recycling day. And actually the main point of this program is the electronic recycling. Whether our electronic car recycling days, in the region, no one is taking these large TVs. So this program will give you an opportunity to get rid of those large electronics that you cannot get rid of. So that program starts May 1st. You cannot call prior to May 1, but on May 1, please call and set up your pickup date. And that is all I have for you today, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, board reports, none. Staff reports, Mr. Ralph Bakula.
It's construction season again.
This tip of the month?
This is not the tip of the month. It's construction season again in Lamont. I'm sure you guys have seen the water main project started on State Street. That's going to extend from Freehoff south to our well house. It's an upgrade to that 60-year-old water main. It's a main transition line. It's getting upgraded from an 8-inch to a 12-inch main. It's a directional bore project. That project, I'm hoping to get it wrapped up by the second week of June. The second project we have going is our Derby Road beam replacement project, where a cement truck had hit the beam in ruffled feathers on the bridge, and that was back in 2015. They have to take away that whole south beam and replace it with a new one. So that project should wrap up by Memorial Day, the end of May. That's all I have tonight, sir.
Thanks, Ralph. Appreciate that.
Ralph, quick question.
Yes.
For Derby Road, then it's going to be down to one lane?
It will be. They have traffic lights to be set up, so one lane will be open at all times, but it will be stop and go.
So it'll be one lane all day, all weekend,
Yes.
everything? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's already up, Deb.
Yes.
I knew it was starting, I just didn't know if weekends it would, if it would stay one. I didn't
No,
know
it's
if
going to
manned.
stay one lane.
It'll be stoplights?
Yes.
Good.
And the road below the bridge will be closed.
That'll be closed for approximately 7 days. Yes, and we work
There's
with
another
roughly-
access into,
Yes, there's the service gate just south of the bridge that the residents can access through that gate to their homes on that side of the subdivision.
Great. And then we got Chief Mark Mayton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Before I get into my report, I also want to remind folks that May 13th will be the Quarterman Challenge down here. This is the last week to get the pre-race fee. So please come and sign up for that race as well.
I just have one thing to add to that.
I knew you.
Looking for volunteers, so anybody who's out there that's looking for something to do on that date, primarily, we're looking for course marshals. We want to keep our racers on course and safe. And I also want to let the community know that when you're driving through town that day, please slow down. We do not close the course. We only close portions of the downtown to traffic, but the majority of the race is then left open. But it's through neighborhoods where the speed limit is slow and there's lots of stop signs. So we feel confident that between Lima and the police department and our course marshals who have been wonderful through the years, that we can get racers through this course. Now getting them up the hills is another story. They're on their own for that one.
Who do they contact for the volunteer?
What's that?
Who do they contact if they wish to volunteer?
Basically, I do believe go on the website,
Yes.
the Quarryman Challenge website. There is a link there, and that'll get you to, it signs you up then, and then it puts us into a database system. We're actually getting kind of digitized with the Quarryman, so.
That's correct.
The week of April 24th is Distracted Driving Awareness Week in Illinois. Our officers will be out there enforcing primarily those issues during that week. The theme of that week is "It Can Wait." So in addition to the obvious distractions of texting and driving that we all know is unsafe, there are other behaviors that my officers frequently encounter that do cause crashes. Shaving and applying makeup in the morning while driving, reaching for things in the back seat, not securing pets. All those things can cause distractions and cause unsafe behavior. So please, when you're driving, concentrate on driving. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you. Okay, any unfinished business for the board? Any new business? We have no executive session tonight, so I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Debbie Bletz, Trustee Bletzer, seconded by Trustee Stapleton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion approves.